Hey,
Hold on, can you hear me?
yeah, just I
Can
had
you hear
this,
me?
yeah, yeah. Can you hear me?
Shit. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Nathan.
yes,
Oh
yes.
shit. Oh,
You
dude.
can hear me?
Okay. Well, now I can. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know. It just I couldn't before.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for finally for pulling a me and not having a shirt on at the beginning. That's
Oh, that's
nice.
yeah. No, that's funny. Yeah, no, I think I in the tape talk videos that I do, I change my shirt a lot because I realize that I'm wearing the same one, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Makes
that's
sense.
what's going on here.
Man,
Um,
your hair looks awesome.
really?
I want to live in it. Yeah. I want
Well,
to live in there.
might have to fight some other critter out. Um,
Definitely.
the way it's been going.
You remember the first, like one of the first ones of these we did? Like I took a shower in the middle of
You
it.
did, yeah. Oh, that's right. You need to send me the link to that so I can post it.
I
It's
think I think it got lost. I don't know.
oh
But yeah.
no, no, it's got to be there somewhere,
Well,
right?
I don't know. It was the you sound terrible. Yeah, it's got to be there, right?
I sound like what?
I don't know. It just sounded weird.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm trying to find something here to related to damn it, on my phone to related to well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Do you think that white people have the right to play jazz?
Oh, yes. I
Of course they
do,
do.
but I
Of course
think
they do.
but they ought to feel terrible about it and weird about it. And they ought to have they ought to have some kind of license of study more than anyone else, to be able to do it. And I mean,
Even
I'll say
then.
this, well, even then they're always going to be white. I mean, you know what I mean? That's just that's it. I mean, man, when I was going to music school and everything, I that's when that developed for me. Like I was just playing, in Muffin Head playing super fast funk, when I was well, I guess it was first I was just, at like whatever, 15, I was just playing REM cover type of music. And somehow I got to Steely Dan right before jazz. Steely Dan was the gateway band. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. I didn't realize, and I'm still like this. I mean, I didn't really realize there were like 50 fucking different drummers that I was listening to. When you're like playing along to Asia and all these, I used to have my practice space, my CD player, and then you remember that my CDs are just all upside down scratched, I'm stepping on them and I
Yeah.
would just
Yeah.
throw in one CD after another, and if I was on a Steely Dan bender, I just didn't know that it was different dudes, Jeff Porcaro and Bernard Purdy and all these different dudes I was listening to.
Yeah. I mean, at that
But
age,
my
you
point,
don't think about that. I mean, I guess
no,
kids probably nowadays with Wikipedia and all this information available to them, that it's they think about that stuff maybe, but back then
yeah,
you
well,
just think like,
it the information is out there and you don't have to dig for it these days like you did then. And I was interested in playing it, not studying it until I went to school. But that was my point. Like, when I got to Berkeley, you just started to realize that there were a couple of white guys that were special. They were the special white guy. I wanted to be the special white guy, the one that got called for things.
yeah.
That's what you want to be. But one of the other ones, his name, oh shoot, I mean, he still plays and uh I've seen him lately. I'll have to get back to it. Dang, he was good. Like his chops were off the hook. They were crazy. Good. But then somehow he fell into big band. Like that's
Oh,
what the
yeah,
white that's the
yeah.
that's what the white guy is going to do. He's not going to go for the Art Blake, or I don't know, he's not going to get chosen for the Art Blakey ensemble or whatever. He's
Betty
going to get the
Carter.
big band.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Which is the
So
whole other thing. I mean, what we have a thing, the Art Blakey Betty Carter spanking machine that musicians have to go through.
we can talk about that. But
That
I
no,
want to
no, that's that another
and this is no blowing smoke up my own ass, but I eventually made it into the Horace Silver ensemble, which Horace Silver doesn't look black physically. I mean, he
yeah,
looks like Native American or something, but
yeah.
it whatever the case may be, I felt like really good about getting the audition and getting the role in that because it's Art Blakey. And
Wait,
and then we were
Horace
the
Silver?
so the well the Horace Silver ensemble that at Berkeley, I mean, most of the parts were Art Blakey parts
Oh, okay,
somehow.
okay, gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Okay.
know and man, I cheated my way through Berkeley by using my ears, and I shouldn't have been able to do it, but I mean, I would just my eyeballs would be on the chart, and I would be trying to follow the measures, and then I would just see a figure coming up, and but I just listened to the actual stuff so much that I could either guess what was going to happen, or I just played what he played you know um it's terrible. That was a terrible, that's a terrible way to make it through school. Just using your instinct and guessing, because sometimes you're wrong, or sometimes like they would focus on me, and they would say drum. It would be like, drummer, play this figure for everybody,
Mm.
and I would just be outed. I'd be looking at it and being like, okay, two dotted, blah blah. There's a tie over that. I didn't know. I didn't know. But luckily, the guy that taught it was I. It might have been, Billy Pierce, or somebody that was pretty. Do you know who that is?
This rings a bell.
He's a saxophone player, and he was in some serious shit. But anyway, and I can't remember, but whoever it was, they would get frustrated immediately with me and be like, "No, it's ba da 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 da," and he'd sing it to me, and I'd be like, "Okay, ba," and I'd just play it, and because they were in the interest of saving time, really. But
Yeah.
but we're back to the black white thing. I always knew I was a white dude, and I was going to have that thing about me. Like, I'm playing sort of somebody else's music, and I don't want to learn that unless you're a piano player. Somehow they just get a pass because of a harmonic tradition, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're anything
Um,
else, you don't have any excuse, and you want to, you don't want to learn from the whitest of the white. You want to learn from the real stuff. And if you go back far enough, that's what you're going to get. And then you get back, and I'm going to stop talking after this, but then you get, oh God, you're going to have to do the thing. You get back to Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson, and I'll go ahead and throw out Gene Krupa. I'm gonna let you do your thing in a minute, but you get back to those dudes, but then you immediately feel like you're listening to Pat Boone doing Tutti Frutti, and you're listening to Elvis. You're listening to
yeah.
Elvis do.
Yeah.
You're listening to it's not their fault. You're listening to second generation of something. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
I
That's a
am. I
great.
want to be the second generation of it, not the third.
Yeah.
You want
Yeah.
you want
No,
to be
that's
one.
I
You want
think
to be one removed, not two removed from it.
yeah,
Anyway,
and that's a great way to put it. Or just to kind of like nutshell it in a way is just that, the best that we can do is be second generation, you know,
yeah.
of
So you have to fight to stay in
quality.
that position.
Yeah,
You
of
have to fight
quality
to stay in that position.
in
Yeah.
the traditional or straight ahead field, there's I think, there's plenty of places for white people to do great. I mean, I have no problem listening to white people play fusion or jazz
Yeah.
or whatever else. I mean, I'm sure there's, I don't know. I mean, I guess the only other thing that I could think that I would not that I would feel like a similar feeling with white people about, you know, like where I don't want to hear them, because I mean, well, you know, I mean, I asked the question, but I mean, my view is that, you know, I have no interest in listening to white people play jazz, including myself. But uh,
Yeah, ditto,
you know,
including me. Yeah,
but
yeah,
you know, do I want to have fun and get gigs doing it? Sure. You know, I mean, do I mind
totally.
playing with a bunch of white guys, you know, in a on a gig? You know, no, because it's, you know, I'll have fun, you know, but you know,
Right.
I'm not going
It,
to have any
and
expectation. Yeah.
hopefully you're the closest to the second generation of the white guy in the band. You know what I mean? Then you're the top dog, you know, in a way. Dude, I
If
mean, and
at least in spirit, if not, you know, technique, you know, hopefully, but
man, I mean, and I want to make a disclaimer since we're making this public. I mean, not a disclaimer, but just, I mean, just to talk about what we're doing. It's a politically and you know, race oriented, also charged fucking environment right now. And I don't think people have the balls to say how they really feel about it. And but I don't consider this really a race topic. It's really a tradition topic. And you know, you want to get, and we're just saying, both of us, I think that we want to get the richest experience that we can from it at closest to the source. I mean, you just want to be closest to the source. Then you can be Bill Stewart. Then you can be Bob Moses. Then you can be your whoever you're going to be. But and you're always going to be the guy I don't listen to, including myself. You know,
yeah,
in the straight ahead jazz tradition of it all,
yeah,
because you want to be closest to the source. That's it's about being closest to the source.
right.
And if it's a dip, if it's white, if it's guitar players, you know, and rock, you know, I mean, that the source is different. I mean, you're probably not going to listen to Vernon Reed, but you might. I mean, I love Vernon Reed.
Yeah,
You know,
no,
and
he's great. He's great. I want to, okay, so you know, and I told you about this the other day, but I wanted to, you know, I was telling you about that I am in this Facebook group, Jazz Drummers, it's called Jazz Drummers, and
yeah,
you know, it probably has like tens of thousands of people in it or whatever. But a guy made a post, and who incidentally is a black guy. I mean, I didn't, when I looked at I just read the post and got excited about it, and I didn't even like look at the person's name or their avatar or anything. But that, you know, that doesn't really mean anything or would change anything necessarily. But I'll read the post, and I'll read some of my comment and some of the other people's comments, you know, and we can maybe stop, because, you know, I feel like it just kind of like hits different points that, you know, that I think about it. And, you know, maybe you feel the same way about it. And, you know, whatever, you stop me or whatever, if you want to discuss something, I just want to kind of go through the various things. If that's all
okay, go
right.
for it.
You mind if we do
Go
it? All
for it,
right.
man. Yeah,
So I'll read his original post, which is great. It says, for drummers, in a lengthy and in-depth interview, Miles Davis and Return to Forever alum drummer Lenny White named the quote Magnificent Seven those drummers with the most profound impact on him and arguably all jazz drummers. He says, I can't argue, although I would love to add Billy Cobham and Jack DeJohnette as 8 and 9. All right, so just before we make a comment on that, which, you know, I know I want to, but and then in parentheses, he says, I don't know whether Lenny listed them in order of recall or precedence in his mind, so I reordered the list in alphabetical order. Uh, and here's Lenny White's 7 musicians, jazz drummers that he calls the Magnificent Seven: Art Blakey, Kenny Clark, Roy Haynes, Elvin Jones, Philly Joe Jones, Max Roach, and Tony Williams. So already, you know, I mean, personally, just knowing, you know, just I haven't read any Lenny White interviews or seen any interviews or heard him talk at all, but I mean, I feel like Tony Williams would be his main influence, you know, I mean, just based on his playing, and I would be surprised if that wasn't the first thing he mentioned, but it's at the bottom of the list because it's alphabetical. And the guy says he would love the guy. making the post says he would love to add Billy Cobham and Jack DeJohnette as 89, which I mean is just would be fucking terrible, to add to the list in my head. Um, but that's a respectable list. I mean, I don't like Max Roach, but the other guys are great. And Max Roach, my comment on that is just that he, well, I mean, not my comment on the post. I'll read that in a second, but it's just that he's just an old drummer, and you just feel like people when they're young they just get into something. I would like to think that he just is saying him out of respect or out of some kind of nostalgia, younger era nostalgia, but maybe he just genuinely loves him. But the other guys, seem more whatever. So yeah, do you have a comment about the list or the DeJohnette
I like the
album?
list. I mean, oh, you about the additions to the list?
Yeah, yeah, or that and the list. Anything to say so far?
I don't know. I don't consider, what's the title of the list again? Say it
The
again.
Magnificent Seven, according to Lenny White.
Okay, but it's not saying in jazz, it's just saying period.
No, in jazz, yeah, with the most profound impact on him and arguably
Okay.
jazz drummers. Yeah, I mean
I
that's
mean, I don't know. For me, Billy Cobham just doesn't fit into the category.
yeah, I
Um,
see what you mean.
and,
And
I mean, it just,
DeJohnette as well. I mean, he got into jazz, but it's more like fringe
well,
in a way.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna, I should just shoot from the hip with this stuff, but I don't really even know what ECM is because I
Yeah,
have an aversion
don't
to
even
it.
don't
You know what
even
I mean?
worry about it.
I mean, I have whatever it is, I just know to stay away from it.
Yeah,
And
it's
Jack DeJohnette is, to me, I don't even know if he's related to that at all or anything, but he's
he
in
is.
the
It's weak
he's
shit, basically. I mean, but
so that stuff and fusion are just not jazz. So it nullifies the two dudes.
yeah.
And we've both talked about this. At Jack DeJohnette, there are a couple things like on the um what's it called? The uh-oh. What's it called? What's it called? The piano player,
Oh,
the
the
white guy.
Rubalcaba.
No, the white guy that,
Okay, sweetie. Hey,
Chick
hang on, I
Corea.
got it. Yeah, Chick Corea. Yeah, babe, I'm doing a video right now. Could you go upstairs, please?
Cottage Village,
Okay, go tell Mayna to get you some.
assisted living facility.
Okay, all right. Well, okay,
When you
all
get
right. Hang on just
super old, please come see me.
a
Oh,
second.
I was doing it.
Wait, will you talk for a second? Just talk about something. I'll be right back. I just have to get some milk. I mean, just
Okay, great.
related.
Go for
Yeah.
it. This is not related. If for anybody that's out there, I just got a motor and a speed reducer and I put a cymbal lathe together. And I've been lathing my own cymbals. And it's awesome. Cymbals are too expensive these days and they just don't make them thin enough. So I've been doing some hammering and some lathing. And I think, and I've recorded a little bit of it. I kind of just wanted to record it in case I either did something dumb or something awesome or something dangerous. And all of those have happened so far. I'm going to post a link to that stuff so that anyone out there can laugh at me. But if anyone's listening to this that is a jazz drummer, I've taken a couple of like 22-inch, basically kind of just throw away because they're too thick or they don't sound right in the first place, cymbals, and stuck them on my lathe, relathed them, rehammered them, and they sound awesome.
Oh man,
They
they
really do.
do. Yeah. Did
It's
you say
not public.
that? Did you say that it was that it started out like being like a Jack DeJohnette sounding cymbal, like where
I
it's just
didn't get to that, but the ones that, so the 22 inches ones that I've done, or the one that I've done, was it started out like it was a Sabian something shitty, and it was unlathed on the top, and it was dinky and it didn't project, and it was too thick. So I lathed both sides of it, and man, now it's just like
it sounds
it
great.
made a huge
It really,
difference.
yeah.
I don't know, like I haven't used it in a real setting yet or anything. So I'm still waiting for that part, but it does sound good. So,
Yep.
You know, there's
does.
hope. There's hope is all I wanted to say about it.
Good. I'm
Anyway,
glad you
back
talked
to
about that while I was gone. Sorry to get some milk for a kid. All right. So then he gives a list, and then he says, he has some commentary about. He says, "Are you wondering why not Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa?" I mean that okay. Which is okay. I said that I did obviously I did it all on purpose because when we were talking about it before and I read you that I said accidentally said Gene Krupa and we cracked up.
Yeah.
It's just like Gene Krupa. Oh man, like
I, I'm gonna give you the beat and you can do it again. Is do 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 do.
Anyway, Gene
Yeah.
Krupa. So, are you wondering why not Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa? Wonderful drummers, yes. Each made great contributions to the instrument. Uh, Rich is a technician, and Krupa is a showman. However, style-wise, neither drummer made unique contributions to jazz drumming. Both derived nearly all of their relative styles for playing big band and ensemble jazz from contemporaries Chick Webb, Sid Catlett, and Papa Joe Jones, among others. So there.
Man, that's such a well put and eloquent, articulate comment.
Yeah,
It's not very many words, and the guy is nailing what he's thinking of saying. I mean,
yeah,
that's a really cool way to put that. I mean, they didn't. I don't think that's that arguable. That
yeah. It's great.
he goes over like the two things about he goes over one thing about each of those guys that they did contribute, just
Mhm.
in general, but it doesn't apply to
Yeah.
to furthering jazz in any kind of way.
So he's I mean the his
Oh, I
post
got it.
is
I
exciting.
got it. See, I got it from earlier. The guy's name that I went to Berkeley with that played in the big band stuff, and he reminded me of Buddy Rich. That's why you thought of it. But his name is Steve Haas, Haas.
Hmm.
I know, but I've looked him up like 10 years ago, and I saw that he was doing
Okay,
something with
okay.
somebody. And so, but anyway, go ahead because I just saw
So
it.
yeah, so his post, I mean I was excited about it. In various ways. I love Lenny White. I like the list, except for and then but if there's and I like what he's I don't like what he says he liked to add Billy Cobham and Jack DeJohnette, who I do not like. And great commentary about Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa, and I don't like Max Roach. So, now I feel like I'm excited about writing a comment, kind of both complimenting and insulting various things or whatever. So wrote my comment was, well, Krupa and Rich are white guys, so they don't really count as worth anything as far as traditional straight ahead jazz goes. Max Roach sounds like a white guy, so he's the only disappointment on the list. Overall, though, a great list and reaffirms my interest in Lenny as a drummer. Um, then uh, I guess the guy who the original poster, right? His reply to me is 3 question marks. Um, and I wrote, oh yeah, I'm having trouble doing. Okay, here we go. Um, wait, sorry, I had to go back to the. Okay, yeah. So I wrote 3 question marks. He writes. So I wrote, I don't enjoy or appreciate listening to any white musicians in the traditional jazz setting. Beyond that, they're all right. They simply don't sound good enough for my taste, which they don't. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
um,
you can't argue with
and then
what you.
another guy writes, he replies, Joe Morello or Paul Motion, quote, just don't sound good enough. No. While true that jazz is an African American creation, it's your bias, not your ears, that leads you to make such a statement. The greatest black jazz artists disagreed with you. They worked with and embraced musicians such as Art Pepper, Jerry Mulligan, Lenny Tristano, Lee Konitz, Chet Baker, Bix Beiderbecke, Gil Evans, Bill Evans, Joe Zawinul, Paul Motion, John McLaughlin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, which is a whole thing. I mean, which is it's like, oh, because what are you talking about? Black people embrace these people, so that you have no point. It's like, well, I mean, anyway. So I said, sure, those guys are functional. When I was younger and thought that somehow I was obligated to find appreciation for something, I used to listen to them. But as I got older and the bag of things that irritated me, um, but that I was supposed to appreciate grew bigger, I started picking up on a common theme, you know, that I don't enjoy white musicians in the bebop, cool, hard bop, modal, new traditional, etc. jazz forms. I can enjoy, but I can enjoy hearing white musicians perfectly fine in other settings like fusion, jazz rock. I already said that kind of stuff. Smooth jazz, West Coast GRP style, which I mean, all this kind of stuff. But in the big boy straight ahead setting, they consistently don't have the touch that I want to listen to. Technical skill or black people approval aside. Um, and I said, I was like, I mean, yeah, I thought I was making my bias abundantly clear, no confusion there. And I was like, man, don't get me started on Bill Evans. The guy's lucky to get some limelight thrown his way by Davis. Totally undeserving of it. His playing grates on my brain. His choice of longtime bassist Eddie Gomez. I mean, we have a whole other a little video about all that stuff. And then, but I did say I really like Zawinul and McLaughlin, but again, and
In a
we were
different
talking about
setting.
that last night, that, Zawinul with Cannonball Adderley he's just kind of like middle of the road to me. I mean, I don't hate him, I don't love it, it's just like whatever. But then once he hits fusion, I mean, it's just like a god. I mean, I absolutely love everything he does rhythmically, harmonically, melodically, compositionally, creatively. Um, and similarly with John McLaughlin, I actually don't like his soloing, but I like his composition and creative ideas a lot. Um, anyway, anything to say so far about any of that?
I mean, I agree with it all, and you can't. I mean, I don't like the idea of shutting down someone's taste.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just it stops the conversation. I know people really like to bag on you for ripping shit apart. They just think that it's a negative thing, but I've always, considered it an important part of conversation. You know what I mean?
yeah,
To make your taste known. The weirder or the more angular, the better. I mean, great.
yeah.
Then
It's a weird thing to.
let's keep talking about it. It should be the end of it. Let's keep talking about it. Convince me otherwise, or try to change my mind, point out something specific and say, listen to this with your eyes closed and tell me what you think. Or, it's just,
Yeah,
it's just sucks when it's the problem, it's part of the problem with the state of, politics and shit right now is that people are just too scared to talk about anything because of a difference of opinion, that should be natural. That's how you
yeah,
talk about it.
yeah.
So
So I, and I addressed his saying about black musicians who give kudos to various white jazz musicians. I said the thought of a notable black jazz musician giving the thumbs up to listening to or using a white dude on a session means nothing to me, except maybe a little pity or disappointment that they feel that way. And by the way, I don't blindly accept any black jazz musicians as just being good, just that in general, they are naturally innocent until proven guilty of bad quality, where it's the opposite for white people.
yeah, I
And
mean,
that's for me, that's a big thing, that it's just like, yeah, I mean, I'm like, I don't like, you know, just any black jazz musician just because he's black, I mean, but he has like a leg up, or she, whoever.
yeah, well, I mean, if you, like at Berkeley or in real life, if you hear of the the one white dude, maybe it's a drum, the one white dude in the session, I have a little bit more respect for that person. And then A, and B, I'm just envious. I want to be the only white dude because, and I don't even want to be white necessarily. I mean, I just want to be the only choice, you know. So I'm immediately like, ah, that's a good position to be in. You know, your playing is not only outweighs your deficiency or your or whatever. I mean, but it's, you know, there's an acceptance. There's an acceptance that I guess I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that let's see. Yeah, so this guy writes, he says, Bill Evans is a giant. So is Joe Morello on the drums. You're of course entitled to your musical choice, but tying it to skin color as you do is weird and not accurate. If you wanted to instead say that black musicians created and dominated the jazz scene into the 60s and that almost all major innovators were black, no one could reasonably argue with you. Um, so, I mean, it's like, well, weird and inaccurate. I mean, according to what? I was telling you on the other day. Um, so I'm just like creating piles of likes and dislikes in jazz, and it's like if I were to just separate them and look at one pile and the other, it's like, what's the theme there? Oh, all these are white guys, and these are not.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean,
so I'm not supposed to look at that. It's like, oh, well, I can't look at that as any kind of that doesn't mean
indicator.
anything. That I can't
Yeah.
draw a conclusion there because, even though there's what it is.
Well, I mean, and it can to me, it goes to, you know, back to what I was saying earlier, it kind of goes to the source of things. And there are some exceptions or sometimes that I'm surprised or something, and it doesn't, I mean, I try not to let it do anything to me, but you know, uh, and here's one of them, and I just checked this out. You know, Ahmad Jamal, do you know his drummer?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know his name, but
His name is Vernel Fournier, you
okay.
know, and
What are you about
and
to? He's a white guy.
I well, I've always loved that his playing. I mean, just that
Yeah, it sounds
The
good.
Poinciana stuff and like the way he plays brushes is just, oh man, it gets me. It gets me somewhere huge. And I've always thought he was white.
Oh,
He looks white. He kind of looks like Horace Silver, you know. So
okay.
and I thought he's the white guy that I really like. And
But
he's
he's not.
just, well, I just looked him up just now. Here's
What?
the answer. He's Creole.
Okay, good.
I don't know what that means exactly, but I mean it's
I
a
mean,
mixture,
it
but
means
it's
that
its
there's
own thing.
something good happening there.
But so I don't know what box to put that in, but I love his, you know, I love
Yeah,
his
he
playing.
sounds
I
great.
love
He
it.
does.
I mean, it's just, yeah, he can do no wrong. There's nothing I've ever heard from him that I was suspicious of or anything.
It's very, very,
So I mean there's,
very tasty
yeah,
playing.
yeah, it is. I mean that there, hey, Bill Evans, there's your, you know, use of space and stuff that everybody's talking about. That's to me, that's the source of it. Man, Ahmad Jamal plays less than he plays. You know, I mean, he plays like
Oh my God.
he plays
Oh,
less notes than I don't know how to quantify that, but you know what I mean.
yeah. Okay. So I'm just trying to get through this real quick. I mean, whether it's, we might have said
Okay,
it
you
all, but
got
whatever. So my
5 minutes.
response to him saying about, Bill is a giant and so is Joe Morello. I said, well, I should say that I actually do enjoy and appreciate these guys I'm shitting on quite a bit, but more because I really enjoy things I dislike or hate almost as much as things I enthusiastically like or love for what they are, on their own or whatever. So when I say that Bill Evans looks pretty short to me, or Joe Morello sounds stale, I'm still really glad that they existed to give me those feelings. It's a win-win approach. But I do like them enthusiastically or but do I, I'm sorry, but do I like them enthusiastically or appreciate their talents, creativity, skill, importance, or whatever for what it is on its own? No. But I find a way to enjoy it in another manner. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's, I mean, that's what we're doing is all about. It's like, I'm glad that these people are around, and so are
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally. What they're missing is that whether it's on the positive side or the negative side, it's still under the umbrella of appreciation. That's the
yeah,
point that I think people it's
we're
not
appreciating them
appreciated.
for what we can, I mean, what we're able to, because the things that everybody else wants, wants you to appreciate them for, we're just, at least me, and I assume you are just not able to. Um,
The
but,
easy
we got to find something there.
EC to me, I mean, and I'm pretty closed off to the ECM stuff because I've been burned every time that I've found anything out about it. I just want to describe it in my quick opinion
Hmm.
quickly. The guitar, first of all, shouldn't be in jazz. So
Yeah.
then it is, and it's like, dude, your amp is your amp in the at the bottom of a swimming pool? A, you know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
no, it doesn't, your amp's underwater and I'm just hearing bubbles from it on the top of the surface. Then the bass player is snaky and out of tune. There's no, I mean,
Yeah.
just generally, it's just like the string is half a millimeter from the fretboard. I mean, there's no projection
It's
and it's
like
out
all
of so
buttons
also
left. Yeah.
so the only way you can hear it is if they're a little out of tune with everything and slide into every note.
Oh,
And
man.
then the drummer is playing with twigs that he got from the sapling out front. And it's just, it just none of that makes any like
Yeah. Well,
doesn't make sense
the
to me.
jazz label based in Germany is, doomed to begin with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I wanted to get to this comment though. We only have a couple more minutes. This guy, he says, and I'm kind of skipping around. He's like, he's already addressed me, but he's like, traditional jazz? You mean 1920 to 1933 Louis Armstrong? I mean, so he's trying to be a grammar cop or whatever. And, I said, quote, and I quote, traditional jazz forms, if you catch my drift, basically just like calling any soda Coke, or whatever. He said, I have no idea of your drift. Best I know, traditional jazz is 1920 to 1934, such as the great jazz age of Louis Armstrong. But what I think you're saying is that music played on acoustic instruments, not the electric fusion stuff he listens to. Every time I come across terminology like this, it was a person who has no knowledge or background in jazz. So that must be me. Um, and I said, I don't know what to tell you, man. First, I thought I'd pick on how you have no idea what I was saying, but then you ended up having an idea of what you thought I was saying, which is funny. And, it's whatever. And then I, said, like, you're trying to grammar police approach. Um, anyway, I kind of just had fun with him a little bit. And then he said, yet you did not address any of my points. And I was like, oh, you actually want me to? And I said, okay, well, I'm guilty of lumping the various forms of jazz up until fusion, which I love, by the way, including the 80s and 90s new traditional together in a package called traditional or straight ahead. As I don't apologize for it. Even worse, my intention is to not include the area that it technically is, but have it start in the 40s, go to the late 60s, and then pick up in the 80s to the mid 90s when the good jazz guys started forming shitty funk bands. And I'll unapologetically call it traditional. And then he writes, congrats, you're the most fucked up person I've ever come across on the internet, more so than Trumpies or Christians. You know.
What a great
Anyways,
way
we
to
should
end
just
it.
end there.
Yeah,
But a guy said,
sounds good.
yeah. Anyway, all right. I'll talk to you. Bye.
All right, see you, man. Bye.